Major Russell Wilson rumors to discuss here on the Raiders Report. Plus, the Kansas City Chiefs just got some bad news, and quite frankly, it's the news that everybody needs to see today. I'm Mitchell Renz, host of the Raiders Report, and if you're looking for Raiders videos every single day, make sure you click that subscribe button. If you're looking for me to break down The Sopranos or Scarface, definitely not the channel for you. Seriously though, Chugs and I, we're going to be live here in a few hours. We're going to be live for the Bills-Chiefs game. We're going to be rooting on Bills Mafia. Who knows? I might even go through a table. Hit that subscribe button. Turn on those notifications. But I promise you, I think a lot of y'all might be, we'll talk about the Russell Wilson thing here in a moment. But the Chiefs thing, you gotta listen to that. And if you have a Chiefs friend, make sure you send them this video or just tell them the bad news because I don't know if they even know yet. So this morning, the very first thing that I saw was a report from Ian Rapoport, and it said this: Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson have remained close, and Wilson is a strong option in Las Vegas. To me, and I always get trolled where I'm like, where there's smoke, there's fire. But think about how much conversation is already going on around the Raiders bringing in Wilson, who hired Pete Carroll essentially 48 hours ago. I mean, we've seen Rapp put out multiple reports now. We've seen Schefter talk about it. The Athletic's Jeff Howe, and Jeff Howe is probably the most respectable guy over there at The Athletic in terms of like the big time reporting on everything, where Schefter's ESPN, Ian Rapoport, NFL Network. Jeff Howe for NFL stuff is The Athletic. And he said, and this again was right when it happened, The Athletic's Jeff Howe on the possibility of quarterbacks Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll reuniting said, quote, with Carroll taking over the Raiders, one name I have heard to watch at quarterback, Russell Wilson. They have mended fences per source, and Wilson could be a stopgap while the Raiders develop a long-term answer. When you hear all of that stuff, I think it aligns exactly with what Tom Brady is trying to do with this quarterback. And he wants to have whoever we bring in, maybe it's this season, maybe it's next year, but they want to be able to bring in a QB and have them learn because that's what Tom did. I know it's not exactly what Russ did, but the pieces that they put together for Pete Carroll, pieces that they put together at general manager and John Spytek, what Tom Brady wants, it's kind of aligning like that. And I almost wonder if Pete walked into that meeting room because, again, the biggest reason why I was saying, oh, Dion could be a safe choice is because you know for a fact you're going to get Shedeur Sanders. No, for a fact. And for the Raiders, they were probably sitting here going, man, I'm worried that we might not be able to get a quarterback. And if this new head coach, when he interviews, can prove that he's going to be able to bring in a QB, that should be our top option. Because it was always reported that Pete was a big name to watch. That was a fact. Pete was always a name to watch. So I wonder when Pete went in, he goes, hey, I'm going to be able to bring Russ in. Because the wheels are already turning very, very quickly where, it was like as soon as that, let's go last week when the Lions lost, like the amount of time that happened between Lions losing and Ben Johnson getting hired was the proof of, Ben Johnson was probably always going to end up going to Chicago. The amount of rumors, the amount of quick things that are happening, the moment Pete Carroll got the job here for the Raiders and it's linking to Russell Wilson, who is going to be a free agent this offseason, timing is everything in the NFL, and this timing to me is very, very interesting. So here's my question out there. I know Russell Wilson is not a popular figure amongst the nation. I was literally just listening to the Crosby show the other day, and he was like, listing his top 5 quarterbacks that he likes to sack. Number 1 was Mahomes. I want to say number 2 was Justin Herbert. I believe 3 was Bo Nix, which AFC West QBs. Number 4 was Russell Wilson. And number 5, I want to say you said Lamar Jackson, but who knows? Maybe one of those QBs that Max likes to sack is ends up on our team here with Wilson. So here's going to be my question to the nation. Would you be excited if the Raiders signed Russell Wilson? Yes, no, this is going to be the pinned comment here on today's show. You're about to get hit with the YouTube ad break, so scroll on down and give me your answer. My answer is yes and no, and it's a shitty answer but at the same time, that's what it needs to be. My answer is yes if there is a plan in place. And what is the plan? If it's to use Russ as a bridge quarterback, then I don't think it's a bad idea at all. And I had this conversation yesterday with shout out to Rundown. I was on his show yesterday. But one of the things that, I thought about was if you want to bring in a Jalen Milroe, a Shedeur Sanders, maybe even a Cam Ward, where you don't know if these quarterbacks are ready to go right away. Look at what the Chiefs did with Patrick Mahomes. Look at what some of these other successful organizations like a Green Bay Packers team ended up doing. And the fact that the Raiders talked to a lot of these organizations, reminder, the very first organization they brought in for a GM interview was John Eric Sullivan, Green Bay. Would you not want to talk to an organization that has done a phenomenal job from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers to Jordan Love? Of course you would. But that's been a big organization that has believed on sitting a QB that you draft in year one, letting him develop a little bit, right? Like Josh Allen wasn't ready to go right away. Jalen Hurts wasn't ready to go right away. Some of these QBs aren't ready to go right away because the term that I hate hearing is, oh, that QB's NFL ready. No, he's not. Like there's never been a college quarterback NFL ready. You don't know if you're NFL ready until you're actually out on the field and then you're dealing with it. I think that's a cold hard fact. So to me, if you want to bring in Russell Wilson, and we'll talk about the deal because, to me, I think it's probably going to end up being a 3-year deal. They would tie him with Pete Carroll with maybe 2 of that fully guaranteed. The last year's got to be it's a prove it year, but they would probably want to go with that rookie or whoever they end up bringing in. And again, it's probably going to look somewhere like 3 for $75. However, I would look at it more as, 2 for $50 is how I would probably look at that contract a little bit more closely. Or it could even be like 2 for $40, and then if he's there that 3rd year, he's going to end up making a lot more money on the back end of that contract, which we all would be okay with, right? And I don't know if Wilson's going to be open to it, but I'll also say Wilson did play at $1.2 million, the absolute vet minimum this past season, to go play with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I get it. He was still making a lot of money from Denver, but he still took that 1.2 when he could have asked for more. We all know he could have. And even though he is a weirdo, even though he's Russell Wilson, even though he's a cornball, if you put any other QB's name and said that guy did what Russell Wilson did last season, everybody would say, I got the utmost respect for that guy. And maybe Russell's willing to do something like that again because he wants to have a legacy. Wilson, you go back a few years ago and he was the quarterback of the Seahawks. He talks about legacy. He talks about his name being compared to names like Tom Brady. There's a quote where he goes, I want to be remembered like, I want to be talked about like Tom Brady, like Derek Jeter, Mariano Rivera. And, these are legends. And that's the mindset Russ has. Maybe Russ believes if he comes in again, plays on a cheap contract, because again, dude, he don't need money. He's married to Sierra on top where she might make more money than he does, right? So like, if you got a house with 12 bathrooms in it, and they had a house with 12 bathrooms in it in Denver, like, I don't give a shit if you couldn't shit in all those toilets. How about this? How about you help us out and we build a team here on a cheap contract? Now, the way I would say no to this plan is, well, first let me tie a bow on the yes. The yes is you bring in Russell Wilson, bridge gap quarterback, and then whatever QB you bring in, you let him learn. Because Russ is a nerd, and he would be a great teacher to whoever that quarterback is. And you also have Tom Brady, who is a great nerd. John Spytek, great nerd, great teachers, great coaches. Pete Carroll has been able to do a phenomenal job being able to find these QBs as well. Russell Wilson, Geno Smith, Spytek with Baker Mayfield, Tom Brady being able to create himself. If you have all these very, very smart minds and you let this young guy come in, maybe it's Shador. I think Jalen Milroe would be interesting just because of the athletic upside. And you let them learn behind all of those great names that I said because they have it up here. You can't deny that. That is winning success. And then I would be on the board for it. The way that it's a big old fat no for me is if the Raiders' plan is to go, well, I don't know if we're going to be able to get a quarterback in the draft, so let's sign Russell Wilson to a 3-year deal, and that's going to be our plan while Pete Carroll's the guy. That's the worst plan that you could possibly have, and I say that because it provides no long-term stability. If the plan is to bring in Russell Wilson on a 3-year deal when he's in his 30s, he's 35 years old if I had to guess right now from the top of my head. Russell Wilson age. 36 years old, going to be 37 in November. It doesn't make sense to bring in a 36-year-old quarterback and a 74-year-old head coach and say, this is going to be our long-term plan. If that's the Raiders' plan, it's a bad one because then Russ is 39, Pete Carroll's 77, and if we were winning due to that combo is not going to be around for much longer, and I would argue that it would be a 2 to 3 year window, and then you got to go out and you got to do exactly what we're doing here again. So the Russell Wilson plan is 1 to 2 years, 1 year, 2 years max to me, but the contract they would give him is probably 3 for $75, and that's just my initial guess because it's also very similar to the contract they gave to Geno, which was 3 for $100, and you've seen these organizations have some success with quarterbacks bringing them in. Geno, Baker, maybe Russell Wilson is going to be another one. All right, coming up here in a moment, what's the bad news that the Chiefs just got? Because I'll tell you this. I saw the Russell Wilson thing this morning, and I was like, yeah, all right, I got to make a video before I head into work. But then also, I saw the Chiefs news this morning, and I was like, I definitely got to make a video on that. I'll break it down for all y'all here in just a moment, but huge shout out to our sponsor here, Prize Picks, the best place to get real money sports action with over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings. Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win, up to 1,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. The big game, it's almost here, and it's now or never. Don't miss out on the last football game of the season with Prize Picks, the best place to win cash while watching the big game. Prize Picks is also giving away a free pick for the big game, where one of the starting quarterbacks will only need to throw 1 yard to win. If you're correct on at least one more stat projection, you can win real cash. Download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your game. So for some of y'all that are wondering, and I don't have all the graphics that I usually do, but Jaden Daniels, again, is the one where he's just got to throw a half of a passing yard. You go more there, and then you're ready to rock and roll. For me, one of the lineups that I put together, and it was a simple lineup. Jalen Hurts right now is dealing with a knee injury, and his rush yards are set at 31.5. I'm going to go less, and he's had more than 31.5 rushing yards 5 straight games, but he is dealing with a knee injury. So what I did was I said Jaden Daniels more on half a passing yard, Jalen Hurts less than 31.5 rush yards, and that can be your lineup for Commanders and Eagles. Or you could do more on, again, Jaden. Jaden's got to be the pick today, that no matter what lineup you do, you got to put Jaden Daniels in your lineup. You could do Saquon Barkley more than, he just needs to score 8 touchdowns today. I thought another one that was interesting was Josh Allen, 1 passing touchdown today, right? Like, there's so many different options that you could go with. Travis Kelce, his last 14 playoff games, 14 touchdowns. I love doing Prize Picks lineups. One of the lineups that I did today was $20 to win 70. And it's Jaden Daniels more, again, on that passing yard, less than Jalen Hurts, 31.5 rush. And then I took Josh Allen more than 1 passing touchdown. If those 3 things happen, I turn $20 into $70. And like I always say, you're going to have fun doing it. That's why I love Prize Picks. That link's down in the comments and in the description here on today's show. All right, next thing coming up is the bad news for the Kansas City Chiefs. And this is proof that finally, and I don't know how you don't see it, but, and I said this last week, I mean, we've been hyping on it for a long, long time. We're the Raiders Report, and we pay very close attention to what's happening around, the Chiefs. And I know the Raider Nation pays very close attention. And we've been saying for a while, like, oh my God, when is the NFL going to do something about the refs helping out Kansas City? Well, they hear you, and they see you, and they acknowledge the fact that the Chiefs are getting benefits that not other NFL teams are doing. So according to Adam Schefter this morning, for all of those complaining that Patrick Mahomes gets too many calls, relief soon could be on the way. NFL replay assist, is expected to expand this offseason into plays that could include the quarterback slide, league sources tell ESPN. The fact that this news is coming up today, the day on the AFC Championship game, I think is the best thing that you possibly could have hoped for if you're rooting for the Bills, because it's going to be under a microscope, where usually if Mahomes slides, he might get that call. Today, it's going to be under a microscope, and the NFL's hearing it. The fact that this might actually happen, I think really just goes to show how much negative criticism it's getting, and there's been a lot of negative criticism around it. And, Mahomes earlier this week, and we'll talk about his quote here because there's a whole article on this, and I'm going to read the entire article, but it's taking fun away from the game where I love watching football. Y'all love watching football. But watching Chiefs games with the help that they get from refs, it's kind of turning into the game where, you're out there on the backyard court with your buddies, or maybe some kid that you just met on the court, and it's game point, and they go down the lane, nobody touches him, he misses the shot, foul. And you're like, what? You didn't call a foul all game. He goes, you fouled me. It's kind of ruining watching Chiefs games. So today, I'm excited to see how these calls go. So listen to these numbers. Penalties during the Chiefs' 8-game win streak in the playoffs. If you got a Chiefs fan, send them these numbers, because numbers don't lie. And when they are this skewed, I think it's just proof the refs are helping out the Chiefs, and it's whether you like it or not, it's just a cold, hard fact. So penalties during Chiefs' 8-game win streak in the playoffs, according to Paul Hembo. Roughing the passer calls, 0 against the Chiefs, 6 against the opponents that they've played. 8 games, roughing the passer calls. You look at that game last week against the Texans, and I get it. The Chiefs are a better team than Houston. But it was 3-3 ball game. It would have been a 3-and-out after Houston scored. And then instead of the Texans getting a football, maybe totally being able to flip the script of that game, the Chiefs were able to keep it because of a bullshit roughing the passer call on Will Anderson. And then they went on a 10-0 run. They went up 13-3. It's just, we got to put an end to it. What about unnecessary roughness calls in those 8 games? 1 against Kansas City, 4 against the opponents. So we're talking about 1 to 10 in terms of QB roughing the passer and unnecessary roughness. Patrick Mahomes clearly gets an advantage, and I know the NFL wants to protect Mahomes, but how can you watch a game like last week against Baltimore and Josh Allen, and Allen and Lamar are getting their shit rocked? You got Jalen Hurts getting hit. You got Jaden Daniels getting hit. C.J. Stroud getting hit. Matthew Stafford getting hit. You got all these quarterbacks that are getting hit last week, and there's no flags. But when Mahomes is dancing around, doing a little Jackson TikTok dance, and barely gets hit, flag comes out. Let's start being a little bit reasonable here in the NFL circle. So, again, I'm going to be live today for this Chiefs-Bills game. Hopefully, y'all pull up. Hopefully, you hit that subscribe button. And I'm telling you this, I might jump through a table today. No, we'll see, man. We'll see. So here, again, is the article that was released by Adam Schefter this morning. He released this at 5. This was yesterday, excuse me. Alex got home from her flight yesterday, so we kind of had a her and me day. But I saw the tweet go out this morning. So here's the whole thing on Adam Schefter. I am going to read the entire article. If you want to read it yourself, you can go check it out on ESPN. Per Schefter, again, so for all those complaining that Kansas City Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes gets too many calls, relief soon could be on the way. NFL Replay Assist is expected to expand this offseason into plays that could include the quarterback slide. The NFL enacted Replay Assist in 2021 to allow replay officials and designated members of the officiating department to assist with on-field calls in limited game situation. Replay Assist has been used during games when there is a clear and obvious video evidence, such as the spot of the ball or a foul, a complete or incomplete pass, and touching of the ball or a line. Beginning in 2024, the league expanded Replay Assist to include additional areas in which information could be provided when there was a penalty flag already on the field, including fouls for hits heading out of bounds, fouls for blows to the head of a quarterback, and elements of intentional grounding. Here's where it gets interesting. Now, more elements could be added this offseason. Replay Assist came into question in the third quarter of last weekend's AFC Divisional Playoff game when Mahomes scrambled out of the pocket, slid beneath 2 lunging Texans defenders, and still drew a 15-yard penalty of Houston for unnecessary roughness. That wasn't even the one that I was talking about earlier. That one's in the third. I'm talking about the one that happened in the first quarter. That's 2 clear-cut plays that we're discussing here. And Troy Aikman said on air, oh, come on. ESPN analyst Troy Aikman said during the telecast as the penalty was called. And he said, he's a runner. I could not disagree with that one more. He barely gets hit. Aikman then goes on to say on the live cast, got to address this in the offseason. You can't, as a quarterback, run around, play games with the defenders, and then get called for a penalty. And he's right. Where I think if you're the NFL, you got to be able to figure out a way where if you're inside the pocket, you should be allowed to get hit. And I get it. Hits to the head, totally different. Hits below the knees, totally different. But when you're in the pocket, you got to be able to get hit. When you're rolling out, maybe, it changes a little bit. But you have to be able to switch up these rules because the one rule that needs to change is this. If you cross that line of scrimmage, you're a runner. You can't be a QB anymore. Like, if you're going to be back in the pocket and there's going to be quarterback rules, cool. And there should be QB rules. But I don't think it should be just because you get hit, oh, a flag's going to come out. But as soon as you cross that line of scrimmage, you're a runner. And if a defender wants to come up and lay the wood on you, you can't just get the foul because you're Patrick Mahomes. Like, I remember going back and watching games on Cam Newton. And, you know, I watched, Cam Newton was one of my favorite quarterbacks growing up because he was just a freak of nature. And he would get hit so hard, but because he was a giant, people would be like, it's nothing. Because Josh Allen is a humongous human being, you know, people are like, it's not roughing the passer. I get Mahomes has, like, learned how to do it, but you can't reward it, right? I mean, we are essentially rewarding a toddler where he doesn't get a toy, he throws a temper tantrum on the ground, and then you're like, oh, okay, I'll get you the toy. That's what we're doing with Patrick Mahomes, and we can't reward that. It's got to go to the NBA where, you know, guys are flopping, guys are getting fined. I think that's what needs to happen in the NFL. If we're going to have quarterbacks that are making the amount of money that they are making, $40, $50, $60 million per year, why can't we have rules about if they're going to get calls, they also got to be getting penalized for flops? And I think it's about damn time that we start holding some refs accountable too, because you're looking at players and, you know, there were so many times in years past, Max Crosby's getting flagged for sacking Mahomes, and this is back when he was a rookie, fourth round pick in 2019, and you're taking, you know, $15,000 away from him. At this time, you know, Max probably wipes his ass with $15,000, but it's still $15,000. I think refs also need to start being held accountable for the calls that they're doing as well. And I'm sorry, but it needs to happen, and these are the things that need to happen because refs get paid well too. Refs get paid a minimum, I believe it's like $650,000. They make what the NFL minimum would be for some of these bottom line players. So anyway, the NFL's competition committee meets throughout the offseason before typically voting on rule changes in late March at the league's national meeting, which this year will be held in Palm Beach, Florida. The competition committee will discuss expanding replay assists, and it's likely to include quarterback slides. The belief around the league is that there is no reason not to bring further objectivity and clarity to a play that fans in the stadium or home can see. And that's all that it is, where let's just get it right. And I think that's all we ever want, where we have all this technology, we have all this. How can we not get it right? How can calls that are this big and can totally flip games, how are they not reviewable? How are they not reviewable? And I think that's what we're getting right here. Though, you know, and this goes into what Will Anderson said last week, where he goes, knew it was going to be us versus the refs going into the game. Like, NFL players are starting to say it, and I'm glad they're starting to get some attention towards it. Mahomes last week said, I don't feel that way. Wednesday, as the Chiefs began preparation for the AFC Championship game against the Bills. At the end of the day, the refs are going to do their best to call the game as fair and as proper as they possibly can. All you can do is go out there and play the game that you love as hard as you can and live with the results. I feel like I've just continued to play the game and just try to win, and whatever happens, kind of happens. And I don't disagree for Mahomes playing the game that way. You know, like, let's face it, if the Raiders were getting the calls that Mahomes is getting, I would kind of want Mahomes to do the same thing, right? It's that competitive nature. But at the same time, something needs to be done, and I think the NFL is seeing it, the NFL is hearing it, and it looks like that this is going to happen, but it needs to be something that we watch today. So bad news for Kansas City. We'll see how that game goes. I'm really, really hoping, again, make sure you're subscribed. If that Commanders and Eagles game is close going into the fourth quarter, Chugs and I will end up going live for it. I want the Commanders to win, but I think the Eagles are going to end up getting the dub. And then in the Chiefs-Bills game, you already know I want the Bills to win. My perfect world, Bills-Commanders Super Bowl, though I am okay with Bills-Eagles. The only Super Bowl combo that I can't have is anything that starts with the Kansas City Chiefs. All right, y'all, I'm getting on out of here. Appreciate everyone for tuning in. If you want to let me know who you got in the games today, let me know. Commanders, Eagles, let me know down below. Chiefs, Bills, it's FKC, baby. I'll see you guys here in a little bit on the Raiders Report. Bad news for Kansas City. We'll keep you up to date a little bit more on Russell Wilson once we get anything. For more news, for more updates, subscribe to the Raiders Report. All right, y'all, I got to get on out of here again. Click this big old red subscribe button if you want more content here from me. Greatly appreciate everyone that always tunes in every single day. If you missed some of my videos that I made recently, you can go check out one of these. Maybe you'll appreciate this one. Or if you want even more content from me and my guys here, you can click on this video here. Free videos. Make sure you're subscribed here to the Raiders Report.